welcome on back to yet another episode of Auburn Anonymous. I am your host, Miles Espy. You can find me on X at Ashton Daniels AA. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Michael Espy. You know him as Jackson Arnold AA. Michael, Jackson Arnold AA, how you doing today on this fine Monday evening?
I'm doing good. I'm running a marathon on Saturday, so I'm kind of just hanging out this week, and I'm obviously working too. My real job and also my part-time job as a commentator and football recruiting expert. And so, doing that throughout the week, not much physical movement. Heading to the Auburn game tomorrow for the Auburn versus Oklahoma game, and won't make it this Saturday, but big week for Auburn this past week, and another big week coming up.
Yeah, nice. I'm excited to look out for you. Did you get your media pass for this week?
Yeah, I sure did. Our first game being credentialed, so this is kind of big for this podcast. That we haven't had anything close to this, but
yeah,
big shout out to the Auburn basketball support team who's in charge of that over there.
Yeah, Miss Marlene Naver.
Yeah, for seeing. They saw that we're on the up and coming, and they probably saw my tweet today that currently has over 600K views as we're filming that, and it's just going up even more. So,
yeah, while we're doing that, let's go ahead and address that. From what I saw was you tweeted something that was just factually correct, and then you just had fan bases left and right jumping all over you on it. What exactly happened today, Michael?
Yeah, so I was going last night. I saw a Missouri fan put on their Twitter, and they said Missouri was the only team in college football to have 6 SEC conference wins in basketball and have 10 wins in football. So I thought to myself, well, that seemed pretty cherry picked. So I was like, I'm going to make one for myself. And I said, Auburn is the only Division I school with 5 or more wins in football and 20 or more wins in basketball. And I got a lot of mixed reviews on this. Some Auburn fans were kind of upset that I posted that because they said it was embarrassing that we only had 5 wins in football, and I shouldn't be flexing that. But at the end of the day, we're the only team that qualifies for that category, so that has to mean something, right?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. I mean, look, it's a tremendous accomplishment. I mean, you have some schools out here. One of the teams that I saw coming at you a lot, and the response to that was Tennessee, and I feel like I definitely can recall them in the not too far distant history, them not even winning 5 games in football. So we can pump the brakes on that.
And I hate to say it, but I mean, if I'm thinking long-term future, I think that, and with this year, obviously the basketball team is so much better than football. But if you're talking about the next 50 years, that's probably not going to be the case. More years than not. Auburn football is kind of on its worst 4-year stretch, maybe in program history. And that's obviously going to turn around with the way the roster has been building this year. And we're going to lose most likely. We're not going to keep too many players on this roster. It's hard to know right now who's going to be able to stay and who's going to go to the NBA, honestly. Mm-hmm. And obviously, with all the seniors we have, we might be a playoff football team next year and a bubble basketball team. So, at the end of the day, we honestly do have one of the best coaching duos in all of sports with Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze. I can't think of a school that has a better one. Maybe Lane Kiffin and Chris Beard is a pretty good one off the top of my head. But if you really look at it, most of the top football programs honestly don't have great basketball coaches right now.
Yeah, I think pretty much any of them would trade spots with us right now. I mean, if we're just being totally honest, they would. But that's enough of the Twitter banter. Let's get into what's actually happened this past week, because Auburn had 2 road games, and people I don't think were worrying too much about LSU, but people were really worried about that Ole Miss game, and Auburn just completely dominates in both games, winning both by double digits. The offense kind of had been looking coming into that Ole Miss game a little shaky. The shots weren't falling quite as good as they were earlier in the year. Then next we play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is a very good team, and the shots were falling, and we needed them to fall, and we were able to beat them pretty convincingly by a solid double digits. What did you see this past week that you liked, and what you didn't like maybe?
Yeah, with both of those games, I thought it was just clear at the end of the day. Auburn had the more talented roster, and I thought it was pretty clear from watching both of the games that Ole Miss was a lot more talented than LSU. I mean, I really first off with LSU, I don't even think we played that great of a game, honestly. Janai Broom started off 4 of 16 from the field. A lot of guys really, weren't shooting great, but at the end of the day, we just turned them over time after time. Our defense was one of the best defensive games we've had all season, if not the best. And yeah, it was just clear we were better in every aspect of that game, whether it was size, skill, better coached. I think we only ended up winning by 13, but there wasn't one point during that game where I had any slight concern. And then with Ole Miss, yeah, I was a bit worried about that one as well. Going into the week, they played Texas and they lost at home, or they won at home by like one. And after seeing that, I was like, if they do this versus Texas at home, it's not going to be. They're not playing the same team on Saturday. And of course, we see on Friday night, half their student section camped out, and they camped out, and obviously
Just to
they
see
brought.
Auburn.
Yeah, I will say about Ole Miss, they're kind of similar to Auburn. That their arena, I mean, that was the loudest I've ever heard that arena. It sounds like they've moved their student section to a better spot. It sounds like they're kind of on the up and coming. Chris Beard, in my opinion, is one of the better college basketball coaches. And but Ole Miss, I mean, we just played amazing offensively. I thought the refs were out to get us from the beginning. I remember at one point it was 31 free throws to 12 free throw attempts, with Ole Miss having the 31. Eventually, towards the end of the game, they only ended up shooting 12 more free throws, but that was because they fouled us on like our last four
Right.
possessions because they had to, and so it looked a little bit closer than it was at the end. But I mean, you got to expect that in SEC a lot of the times with the home refs, they favor the home team, and that
Unless
seemed to be
you're
the
Auburn.
case.
I'm sorry to kind of interrupt you, but unless you're Auburn, because
Yeah.
I feel like at all of Auburn's home games, it's usually about even. Like,
Yeah.
if you go look at, I don't know, like the Tennessee game, for example. But regardless, to get those 2 wins on the road, this past week was huge. And looking across the SEC, I'm going to tell you my kind of observations. You tell me what you're observing. So, of course, we've both kind of had Alabama right around the 5th best team in the SEC to start SEC play. Right now, I think they're the clear number 2. I mean, they are just the absolute clear number 2. They've looked really good outside of one game. They looked really good. Then you look elsewhere, teams that have kind of fluctuated, like Kentucky has just had one of the highest ceilings in the SEC, but their floor is low. Good on John Calipari for coming back and beating them. They had no right to be booing them. I mean, could you imagine if Gene Chizik became the coach of, I don't know, call it Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt came into Auburn, and Auburn fans just boo the living crap out of him when he came in. And I think it's a similar comparison, if not even a worse comparison, because Chizik had 1 year, won us a national championship. Calipari won them one national championship. But Calipari actually had sustained success at Kentucky. Chizik didn't have sustained success at Auburn. Auburn fans love him, but that fan base booed him. To me, that was asinine. I mean, like that team, he deserved a whole lot better, so good on him for going in and beating them. A couple other observations is Mississippi State's a team that just hasn't looked as good as I was thinking. They're clearly out of the top 5 in the SEC. I mean, they're probably a middling SEC team. It seems that they're losing every time they step up in competition, whether it be Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky. They're losing every time they step up in competition. I believe they lost to Missouri this past week, which brings me to my last team I wanted to mention, the Missouri Tigers. They've stunned me. I mean, they at this point they have to be a top 5 SEC team. You might not agree with it. I don't know. I think
there's
you've
no
got to
debate.
put them. Yeah, I mean, they have. I don't know if they'll end up there, but I know that they're there right now.
Yeah, I think the top 5 right now is definitely Auburn, number 1. Number 2, I mean, Alabama, record-wise is number 2. I still don't think they're the best team in the SEC. I still personally think Tennessee's the second best team in the SEC. And then I think, right there with Tennessee and Alabama is Florida. I think those 3 are kind of together, and I think Missouri's number 5. But, hey, they won at Florida, so it's hard to argue that Florida is better than them. And they play Tennessee soon, I know, and I know they play Alabama soon as well. So they'll have plenty of opportunities to prove themselves. But from watching them at that game at Auburn, I couldn't imagine that team after that game they would end up being a top 5 SEC team. But yeah, they seemed like they turned it around, and me and you were clearly wrong on Dennis Gates before the season.
He is not fired. He might be getting a promotion, the exact opposite of what we said, or a raise. I guess it wouldn't be a promotion, but yeah, I mean, I remember that Auburn game, they did we won convincingly, but they threw a punch lately. Like, they didn't go away. So, I respected that, but I didn't think they were this good. Now, talking about the SEC, I do have to go on a little bit of a rant and kind of give a bold, I don't even think it's that bold of a prediction. You saw plenty of people before the season starts say, "Hey, Auburn's the best team in this conference. They're not going to lose. They're going to lose some games, though." But I look at the schedule now, and Auburn is not going to lose a home game. I don't care who it's against. Auburn is not losing at home. And then look at the away games: at Vanderbilt, at Alabama, at Texas A&M, and at Kentucky. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Auburn is not losing in the regular season yet again. Auburn is going 18-0. In SEC play. We're winning out. There's no guarantees of the conference tournament in March, March Madness. Things happen. But I'm going to tell you right now, Auburn is going undefeated. No one else thinks that that's going to happen in the media, but I'm telling you right now it is. Auburn's not going to lose a home game. I mean, that's not even a debate. Then you look at Vanderbilt, should be a pretty easy win. You look at Alabama, that's going to be our toughest test. We could lose that game, but I think we're so much better than them on the defensive end, and we're going to be able to dominate them on offense. They don't have an answer for Broom. Then you look at Kentucky. They don't play defense. They're good on offense, but they don't play defense. We're going to win that. And then you look at A&M. I think that's the second toughest one. That's going to be a really tough game at the end. But I think, again, I just think we're that much better than them. I think we go undefeated this year. Prediction right here from Ashton Daniels.
Yeah.
You agree or disagree with that take?
I'm not quite right there. I'm not saying that couldn't happen. You look at those 4 road games you just said. I think those are all, games that I don't think we're going to lose, but we have a chance to lose. And then I'll even throw Florida at home there just because, it could happen. We could slip up. And I'd say if everything goes wrong the rest of the season, maybe Janai gets hurt again. Say Janai was out for the rest of the year, I'd say we'd probably
Then I'd take that back. But I'm assuming health. Sorry.
Yeah. I'd say we lose 5 SEC games, max. But at the end of the day, my prediction right now, I think we'll end up losing maybe 2 SEC games. I'm not exactly sure which ones. Obviously, I would have Alabama. That's going to be hard to pick Auburn. But if we keep winning up until that game, I'm going to pick Auburn. But so I got Alabama, and then I'll throw even Kentucky will be hard. I mean, they haven't been very consistent, but they lost to Arkansas this week, but they also beat Tennessee at Tennessee without their starting point guard. And so this Kentucky team isn't very good, but they're also, they kind of play like Alabama offensively. They shoot a bunch of threes and they play fast. And so that's Alabama and Kentucky's problem with me, though, is that I don't see either of them being consistent with the style of ball they play. And but yeah, I think two losses max. And you could certainly be right. We could end up winning them all.
And again, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. It's just my prediction. I think it is going to happen. Now, we certainly could lose. I mean, the odds would say we're going to lose at some point, but I don't see it.
All right, well, let me ask you this question. If your life was on the line, who would you take for the SEC tournament this year? Auburn or the field? Your life's on the line.
Auburn. I mean, would you feel any differently?
That's tough. I think it's about 50-50 right now. For the SEC tournament, not for the SEC regular season. For the
sure,
tournament.
Again, upsets happen. But absolutely, my life's on the line. I'd pick Auburn, absolutely, versus the field. Quite frankly, Michael. Of course, it's not an easy call. If you gave me that exact same question, except NCAA tournament, I'd probably still say Auburn at this point right now. As long as if you can guarantee me we'll be 100% healthy, I would take Auburn in that hypothetical. Yeah,
I can say NCAA tournament wise, I'd take Auburn, Duke, or the field would be more of the question, but just want to throw this out there. If obviously Auburn's going to be a 1 seed, who is one team that you want to see as a 2 seed or 3 seed in our bracket?
Ooh.
Anyone?
So I'll throw a name out there, and they have not been playing very well lately. But I'll say the Iowa State Cyclones. I mean, if you look at what they've done, they've lost to Kansas State in their most recent game. We all know they're a far better team than that. And they're a very good they have a very good chance of being a 2 or 3 seed at this point. Now that they've lost a couple games, you have Duke's kind of solidified them. Duke's going to be a 1 seed. I think Alabama's going to be a 1 seed, and there's other teams up there who have surpassed Iowa State at the moment. And I think, I know they haven't played well lately, but we've seen firsthand what Iowa State can be when they get hot and when they're playing good basketball. And then something else scares me is revenge games. That's why I would honestly feel very good if we faced off against Duke in the NCAA tournament, because it would be a neutral court game, and our players are extra motivated because they lost to them already. The revenge angle of Iowa State scares me. What about you? Do you have a team in mind?
I asked that not really with a team in mind, but I'll say Houston. Obviously, another team that we've already
Same
beat.
logic. Yep.
Yeah, same logic though. They did lose to Texas Tech this week, but I just really like how they're built defensively. I think they can compete with anyone, and if you look at the analytics, the Ken Palm and all the others, Tavares, however you say that other ranking system, they're very high up there, even with the amount of losses they have. Like even with 4 losses, I think they're top 5 in Ken Palm right now. And that's going to be that would be one team I prefer not to see. The one team I would want to see, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think, Michigan State. Someone like that would be perfect as a 2 seed. But it seems like Auburn never gets very fortunate in these scenarios. And but hopefully we'll get like Alabama last year and just get an easy ride to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think you said it yourself right there. I think knowing the history with Auburn, they'll probably make Duke our 2 seed, Alabama our 3 seed, Houston our 4 seed, Iowa State our 5 seed. That's probably what's going to happen. But jokes aside, something else that's unrelated to Auburn or college hoops or college sports in general that has had the whole world shocking, just completely shocked, is the trade of Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. You've hearing reports that the Mavericks front office were concerned with his conditioning. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's the rumor. It got me thinking. Talking about how good Auburn's done this year, and I'm not sure if you saw the Dallas Mavericks play the Cleveland Cavaliers the other night, and they rolled out this stunningly amazing starting lineup. At point guard, they had Dante Exum, shooting guard Klay Thompson, small forward Spencer Dinwiddie, power forward Olivier Maxence Prosper, so good that I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Then lastly, Kyler Kelly. Could Auburn's starting lineup go toe-to-toe with this lineup? What do you think?
Yeah, if you put I think that Mavericks team lost by 30 or 40 points yesterday. And I'll tell you this, if the Mavericks roster from what was yesterday's date, if the Mavericks roster from January 3rd or January 2nd played the Auburn Tigers tomorrow night in Neville, I would say Auburn wins. You don't even, I think Janai is clearly better than that center you just named. I've never heard of him in my entire life, to be fair. But probably isn't a consistent NBA player. But, Klay Thompson, he's not what he used to be. Spencer Dinwiddie, he'd be a player I'd be worried about playing against college basketball players. But, looking from where you said, I think Auburn wins 3 of those 5 matchups right there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I think the real advantage that team would have is that, just experience, age, maybe some strength from some of those guys. But, you're putting Cardwell. To me, Cardwell and Janai, I mean, they have the strength of several NBA teams right there. And then we have size at the guard position. You're sticking Denver Jones. I'd put Denver Jones on Klay Thompson and just say, hey, don't let him shoot threes. And then, you have Exum. I mean, he was drafted, I think, the 4th overall pick several years ago, but he's kind of washed. And that's just Dinwiddie's good. Dinwiddie's good. So, at the end of the day, I'd probably pick this Mavs team, but I'll be quite frank. I think our top 5, our starting 5, could go toe-to-toe with them. And the reason I bring this up, this is the age-old question, is can Alabama, because they're usually really good in football, can they insert the name of the worst NFL team that year? Can they beat the Carolina Panthers? And the answer is always no, because I think in football, more particular, there's a much bigger difference in the trenches. Basketball, of course, you don't have offensive and defensive lines, so to me, I think it's more plausible to think we could go in there and hang. with this Mavs team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tahad Pettiford or Denver Jones might be better than Dante Exum, honestly. And if they're not far behind. And I'm saying Auburn would beat them. And if you gave them a 7-game series in Neville Arena and with college basketball rules, Auburn could easily win one game. If not the series. But a typical healthy NBA team. I don't think Auburn could beat it. The worst NBA team right now is the Washington Wizards. And I don't think Auburn would beat them, but if you put them again, you put them in
Jordan Poole, I think, would cook our team.
Yeah,
and Kuzma, they'd.
But you put them in college basketball rules. You put them in Neville Arena. I don't think we lose by 30. I think we might lose by 10 or 15. But I think it would be honestly a decently close game. How many NBA players are on this Auburn roster right now? That's the question. And even the ones that aren't NBA players there's a ton of them that are going to be right outside NBA players. I mean, just looking at, there's easily 7 players on Auburn's team that'll at least minimum be a G League player. Probably
professional.
I don't know. There's
more than that with professional players.
Yeah, I mean the whole team. There's at least 8. I forgot about Jakai. I forget he's on the team, but yeah, at least 8 guys. The 8 guys that could really even play in the NBA. It's hard to get a shot these days. There's so much talent. When I watch the G League, I'm like, I can't believe that guy's not in the NBA. So, yeah, I think Auburn would beat the Dallas Mavericks roster from yesterday, but I think they could play with some lower tier NBA teams.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, well now I'm going to move into a new segment called Twittiot of the Week. As we all know, Brian Harsin shortly after accepting the Auburn job, talked about Twitiots, the stupid people online who are saying stupid things, and you can't let it bother you. Something to that degree. We're going to go over, we each have Twitiots that we want to talk about, people who have interacted with us on Twitter, X, whatever, over the past week. Michael, do you want to kick off with your Twittiot of the week, or do you want me to kick off with mine?
Yeah, why not? My Twittiot of the week goes to @USFL expert. I guess he's a fan of the Birmingham team. He said, quote, Alabama has SEC road wins at Texas A&M, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. Stupid good, period. Been the best team in the SEC outside of one game. Well, that one game, he tweeted this right at 10:25, right after they beat Mississippi State during the week. Yeah, but after that one game, Auburn, come Saturday, beat the only team that you lost to at their place by double digits, and you lost at home to them by double digits. And if you really look at it, we look at more common opponents. Alabama lost to Purdue. We played Purdue in a neutral site and beat them by almost 30 points.
The home court made that 40-point difference there, Michael.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Exactly. And, it's teams, as I said last week, historically haven't been too great on the road. You look at it last year, they were a Final Four team. They beat Auburn at home, but they lost by like 20 at Auburn. And now it's considered the best team in Alabama basketball history. Lost by 20 at Auburn. So, that's why I'm worried about when we play Alabama. It's going to be tough to win in Coleman. But they have absolutely no chance of coming into Auburn. I didn't even think it when we were talking earlier about the 5 games I could see Auburn losing. Not 5 games I could see Auburn losing, but the 5 they have a chance to lose. I didn't even consider Alabama at Auburn as one of them.
Yeah, and I don't think you should have. But first off, I want to congratulations to UFL Expert for being Twittiot of the Week for Jackson Arnold AA. I'm gonna go with my Twittiot of the Week now. In reference to the post you made earlier, where you said that NCAA Division schools with 5 or more wins in football and 20 or more wins in basketball, Auburn, end of list, Tennessee responded with not even top 3 in the conference. And that was referring to Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze as the best coaching duo. Well, let me ask you something, Mr. Orange Inferno or @Vols above all. Who's better than Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze? Because it isn't Josh Heupel and Rick Barnes. I can tell you that right now. Okay? That's not even a question. Who's better? Nate Oates and Kalen DeBoer? Kirby Smart and Mike White. Like seriously, name 3 coaching duos better than Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze. That is a stupid thing to tweet. And you know, quite frankly, you know what's wrong, and you're just trying to rage bait. So, congratulations to you, Vols at Vols above all. Orange Inferno as your name with the orange and trophy, which is also ironic. What has Tennessee won in recent history? Nothing. Congratulations to you. You are my Twittiot of the week. So now, Michael, the last thing we want to do for basketball is let's pivot over to the games for this upcoming week. Sound good to you?
Let's do it.
So Tuesday night. So a couple of these games I think we're going to be quick with, and that's okay. First game we can be quick. Vanderbilt going on the road playing at Florida.
Yeah, give me Florida, even though they did lose to Missouri at home, and Vanderbilt's been pretty inconsistent. Lost by like 30 this past weekend. So, but give me Florida. I'll take Florida big. They've been great at home, other than Missouri.
Yeah, Florida. I'm not even going to give any other comment. It just is what it is. Next up, Kentucky is traveling to Ole Miss. Who do you have there?
Yeah, another one of those teams that hasn't been inconsistent. Ole Miss has now lost 4 of their last 5 games, but give me Ole Miss to bounce back. Kentucky's probably lost a lot of confidence after this past week, and I'm not sure they're going to be completely healthy.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's very volatile, as I mentioned earlier. When they're hitting on all cylinders, they're tough to beat. And if they're hitting on all cylinders, I don't think it matters what Ole Miss does. I think Kentucky wins. But as you kind of alluded to, I really don't think Kentucky's going to be hitting on all cylinders. Mississippi, we saw it. Their crowd's really good. You know, I know they're upset about the Auburn loss, but it's still Kentucky, a top 15 Kentucky team coming into town, and they still have a good team. So they're going to show up. It's going to be loud. Give me Ole Miss. Next one, Auburn at home against Oklahoma. You'll be there.
Let's skip over that one.
Yeah, that's a joke. And I said I think Auburn's winning out, so you know my answer.
I'll say it, Auburn by 24.
No, okay. I think Auburn by 30. Next up, Missouri. And then we're now going on to Wednesday, by the way. Missouri's traveling to Tennessee.
Yeah, give me the Vols and a close one. I guess I have to say it's going to be a close one because Tennessee has looked absolutely terribly offensively this year, but best defense in the nation. So give me Tennessee.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to be Tennessee big. I mean, I know Missouri's been good, but I think they're kind of like the South Carolina of last year. They're out kicking their coverage right now. I mean, they're playing better than, they're overperforming, and I think they're due for getting their teeth kicked in. So give me Tennessee big. Next up, Arkansas traveling to Texas.
Give me Arkansas. I was picking Arkansas a lot to start the year. I think they definitely just build a bunch of confidence. I think Texas is also trending up right now. But, yeah, give me Arkansas. I don't know. I think they're the better team.
Yeah, your analysis on this is spot on. You have 2 low to middle SEC teams, both trending in the right direction. I'm going to take Texas, though, just because it's at home. If it was at Arkansas, I'd take Arkansas. Total coin flip, in my opinion. Next up, LSU traveling to Athens to face Georgia.
Yeah, 2 teams that I don't think will make the tournament. Georgia's been very disappointing so far this season. Give me LSU. I mean, give me Georgia. They're at home. Both these might be 2 of the 3 worst teams in the SEC. Give me Georgia.
And I'm with you. I think Georgia's a little better than LSU, and they're at home. So give me the Dogs. Now let's move over to Saturday. We're going to start it off at 11 in the morning with the Tennessee Volunteers traveling to Oklahoma to play the Sooners.
Yeah, give me Tennessee. We've seen how Tennessee is on the road. I mean, they nearly beat Auburn. I'm not a big believer in Oklahoma. And so, yeah, give me the Vols.
This is going to be my upset. I mean, Tennessee keeps not playing very – I mean, they played – you made the point they played well against Auburn on the road, but they also, they also lost to Vanderbilt. And I think Oklahoma's – I think they're decent. I don't know. It's going to be my edgy pick of the week. Give me Oklahoma. Next up, we can be quick. South Carolina going to Kentucky.
Kentucky,
yep. Next up, Texas is going to Nashville to play Vanderbilt.
give me Texas. I think Vanderbilt's about to start falling apart. Not a huge believer in their team as well. Give me Texas. There might be more Texas fans at that game.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. Vanderbilt, 16-5. They look decent in some games, but I think Texas is just that much better. I think they're better on the inside, especially with Kaluma and Shedrick. I think they're just a better team, so I'll take Texas. Next up, we have an interesting one. We have Texas A&M traveling to Missouri.
Give me Missouri. I think this will be a close game, but Missouri's just gotten more healthy throughout the season. They're currently not dealing with any injuries. So, give me Missouri until they give me a reason not to believe in them at home.
Yeah, Missouri's been really, really good at home, but I don't care. I'm going Texas A&M. I think A&M's a little bit better. Not much. I think they're a little bit better. And I get that Missouri's at home, but again, as we've discussed before, A&M's a very cohesive bunch of veteran guys. They're used to playing on the road. I mean, they went and won at Ole Miss. The only other team that can say that is Auburn. I'll take A&M. Next one, we can kind of gloss over it, even though it's a big game. Number 6 Florida's traveling to number 1 Auburn.
Yeah, give me Auburn, probably by double digits. But, yeah, that is crazy that that's the top 10 matchup, and it doesn't even really seem like it. But
I mean, Florida's a good team, but let's just be honest. Auburn is not losing at home. It's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's just a more talented team as well.
100%. Next up, number 22, Mississippi State, going to Athens.
Give me Georgia
Bulldogs.
again. Yeah, give me Georgia again. I think we're kind of starting to see who in the SEC is, in the upper half and who's in the lower half. And both of these teams are in the lower half, but I think Mississippi State might end up being the biggest disappointment of the season. They just don't have a big man. And great guard play, but don't have a big man. And I think Georgia will take care of him in a close one at home.
There's my head and my heart. My head says Georgia, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. I'm going to go with Mississippi State, the real Bulldogs. And really, I'm going with my heart, and it's more so because before the season started, I said I thought Mississippi State was going to be top 5. I know it hasn't panned out, but in my mind, they're still better than what they've shown so far. So I'm gonna be delusional. I'm gonna pick Mississippi State. Next up, second to last game, the Crimson Tide, Alabama, traveling to Arkansas. Who you got?
Yeah, honestly, this might end up being the game of the week. Is this a night game?
7 o'clock.
Yeah. I think this might be the game of the week, just because you look at what happened last week. Every college basketball fan was watching that Kentucky-Arkansas game, and now they get the opportunity on Saturday night again to go to the number 3 team in the country to play them at home. Well, it's going to be a close matchup. Alabama has more depth, obviously, and is going to run them up and down the floor, but that didn't seem to be a problem for them this week. So give me Arkansas. Arkansas in a close one.
I thought I was going to be the one to pick this game, but it looks like we're going to be 2-0. We both think Arkansas is going to beat Alabama. Look, it's really no shot at Alabama. It isn't. I get that we're rivals. It's not. Alabama is a better team than Arkansas. But what we saw this past Saturday is this Arkansas team is capable of getting up for big games. And they're also a team full of transfer portals that's getting more and more cohesive throughout the year. If that team could go into Rupp and win, that team is more than capable of beating Alabama at home. I mean, they have a raucous fan base, and they're going to show up for that one. So I think Arkansas is going to upset Alabama Saturday night. Last but not least, we go from a pretty exciting game to what I find to be it might be close, but I find to be a boring game. We have Ole Miss traveling to Baton Rouge, Ole Miss at LSU. Who you got?
Give me Ole Miss. I probably won't pick LSU in a game the rest of the year unless they're playing against South Carolina. So, yeah. Give me Ole Miss.
I could see LSU winning, but what I think is more probable is Ole Miss. So give me Ole Miss as well. So that'll do it for our basketball portion of the show today, unless you have anything else you want to bring up before we move on.
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, moving forward, the other two big sports that we're gonna cover regularly are baseball and football. Baseball season hasn't started yet, and we'll admit that we're both kind of newer to being getting super into baseball. I've watched it casually. We both watched it pretty casually the past few years, but we look forward to getting super into it this year. As we mentioned on the last episode, but we don't really have a lot to add there until the season starts. We might, maybe for the next episode, we might do a little research on the teams and, kind of give our predictions for the season, where we see Auburn ending up and where the other SEC teams end up. But we do have a couple of football news to bring up because I saw where you logged a couple of predictions for 2026 recruits. First off, I'm going to ask you about each of them individually. First, I'm going to go with, I guess, kind of the more flashy one, quarterbacks. 2026 quarterback 5-star Jared Curtis. You predicted to come to Auburn. Let me ask you separately, I guess. A, why'd you log that prediction? And were you the first one to log it compared to other people? Or are you have you seen a trend there with other people saying that he's going to Auburn?
Yeah, Jared Curtis currently has no predictions in on any website. He has no official predictions to any school on any website. So I'll get to my reasoning on Jared Curtis' prediction here in a minute. But if you look at Jared Curtis, right, there were 6 schools that were really, first off, Jared Curtis is the number 1 quarterback in the nation on every single website and on the On3 industry rankings, which is the 4 big websites combined averaged. He's the number 4 overall player, number 1 quarterback. You look at his top 6, it's Auburn, Oregon, Georgia, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama. And believe
is that good?
And Ohio State, apparently. Ohio State, those were who people believe to be in his top 6, and then the Ohio State, Ryan Day came to visit him, so we'll throw them in there as well. But earlier last week, Jared Curtis announced he's taking 4 official visits. He said Auburn. He's got a visit scheduled to Auburn, an official scheduled to Oregon, an official scheduled to Georgia, and an official scheduled to South Carolina. These guys can only take 5 official visits, if you weren't aware of that. And so I'm sure
I wasn't. You're the guru.
Yeah, he might get another one in. Ohio State, Alabama. I mean, everyone wants him. Ole Miss. I spoke to some sources very close to the situation, and from Auburn's perspective, if they could bring in a 5-star quarterback every single year, they would. Some of these other coaches haven't went that way. Like Lane Kiffin was like, okay, we're not getting Deuce Knight, but I'm cool with that. I'm cool with just getting a 5-star quarterback or a top 4-star every other year, and then bringing in some transfer guys. And the thing is, if we do bring in Jared Curtis, what will Deuce Knight think of that? I personally, I think Deuce Knight's one of those guys who won't care and thinks he can beat him out. But even if he did come with Deuce Knight the team, if Jackson Arnold has a good year this year and goes off to the NFL, we'll have Deuce Knight for, he'll have 2 years and then he'll go off to the NFL. And so, Jared Curtis could be starting by a redshirt sophomore season, even with Deuce Knight. And so, they want him. Auburn's going to go for the best quarterback in the country every single year at a high school, and that's just how they're choosing to build this. And, from, sources I have out there close to the situation, he's from Tennessee. Tennessee's already got their guy in that class, and I think he was a little bit shocked when Tennessee didn't end up even really recruiting him, and so he started reaching out to different coaches, and different schools started reaching out to him, and from what I hear, his relationship with Hugh Freeze is probably the best of any coach right now that's currently recruiting him. If it was from the source I said, he specifically, this is from one of the top donors in the program. He said, if NIL wasn't a factor, he'd already be committed. So I think as long as we can go ahead and get the NIL up for Jared Curtis, I think he's 100% going to end up at Auburn.
Wow, that's awesome. And in regard to Tennessee, I guess one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah,
that's exciting. And I'm glad to give you the platform to do this. I mean that as sincerely as possible, because you have so many people on social media who claim that you are a troll account, who claims that you don't have real sources. Well, everyone who claims that, did y'all just listen to him? He's the first one to log that prediction, and he just gave you 3-4 minutes, maybe not that long, but he gave you just a very detailed description as to why he logged that prediction and to why he's going to be a great fit at Auburn. So take that, haters. I'm going to give you a second chance to do that, Michael, because I saw you logged a second prediction. This one, for some sites had him as a 4, some had him as a 5-star. We like to give guys the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna call him a 5-star, even though you called him a 4-star on Twitter. Mr. Vondae Cleveland, 6'3", already over 300 pounds, defensive lineman out of Alabama. You made a prediction with him. Are you the first one to log that prediction? I believe he's currently or was formerly committed to Alabama. Are you the first one to log a prediction on him, or?
I'm not sure about other people, honestly, on this one. I wouldn't be. I really don't know. There could already be some Auburn predictions in for him.
Okay, I appreciate the transparency.
This is one guy who committed to Alabama. It may have been 7 months ago or something like that. He committed to Alabama, and right off the rip, this is one of those guys you go, he's not going to Alabama. It's just another one of them situations where Auburn's been recruiting this guy since he was a freshman. He's out of Parker High School, same school as Neem offered. The D-line commit with Jordan Crawford we had in this past class. We've recruited Jeremiah Beeman, who ended up at Bama, but just Auburn's been recruiting this school like crazy over the past few years. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer just came in last year, so they don't have the same type of relationship. I think Auburn's really big on this guy. I think he's our number 1 DL target in this class. He was at junior day for the Auburn versus Tennessee game. Apparently things went well there, as they did with a lot of guys who were at the junior day, including number 1 receiver in the nation, Tristan Keys. Just threw that out there. I don't have a prediction in for him yet, but yeah, I think Vondae Cleveland's pretty much already a commit at this point.
Okay, wow. Very exciting. Well, that's a very exciting note to end this podcast on. 2 guys who we look forward to hopefully having wearing the orange and blue in the coming years. But with that being said, that's all we got for this episode. We look forward to coming at y'all next week. But for now, I'm Miles, and this is Mike with Auburn Anonymous. We appreciate y'all listening. Y'all have a good one. We're out.